It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Pantha Tracks TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine indeed. Welcome back. Not for your weekly recap of all the Star Wars news, but for a special episode where we're discussing the Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm your host, Brian Cameron. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Paul Naylor.
Hello! Hello, everybody.
So, the reason we're doing this special show is because we're both currently in Birmingham at Star Fury Invasion, or we will be when this is getting transmitted. We're actually recording on Thursday evening, so no doubt the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to drop at 5 p.m. UK time on Friday.
Bound to,
That's my prediction. So I'll be out before this show comes out, so this show will be irrelevant. But you can watch this in the comfort of your own home, having watched the trailer, and we won't have seen it.
Yeah.
So
let's see if we pick any good topics.
So we're going to talk about what we want from the film, because it's getting ever closer, and it feels like the marketing should start soon. And New York Comic Con's upon us, but there's been no word that the Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be part of that. You're then probably looking at São Paulo in December as possibly a place for an announcement. And before you know it, it's going to be May next year and the film's going to be out. Is it going to get a standard late trailer release that we've been seeing in a lot of the Marvel films? Or is it going to follow the typical pattern for Star Wars and have some early, nice, big 2-minute teaser trailer?
Well, of course, there was the trailer that was shown over at Celebration as well, wasn't there, Brian?
There was. So I was in the room and I saw that. And let's be honest, everybody at home has seen it as well. Because if you haven't seen it, there's this website called Google. And if you go to google.com, you can type what you want to see in. Be careful.
How are you spelling? How are you spelling that?
google.com.
Yeah. I'll give that a go.
By this strange company called Alphabet. And you can type in what you want to see. Be really careful.
Yeah.
Because my mother once was looking to buy some underwear, and it came up with a message that don't let people inside your pants. A government advertising scheme for young children. So, you know, if you're not a professional at the internet, be careful on google.com. But you can type in what you want to see. So you could type in the Mandalorian and Grogu Celebration Japan footage, and you never know what you'll be able to see when you click on videos. But effectively, what did we see? We saw them inside an AT-AT.
Yeah, it was quite an impressive sort of standalone clip, wasn't it?
We learned that they've built a full-size internals of an AT-AT.
Yeah. And
we saw the Mandalorian have a very interesting fight sequence inside there, which was high octane and exciting.
Yeah.
The footage was all quite high octane and exciting, designed to get us pumped up for this movie. So quite different in style from the TV show, would it be fair to say, Paul?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I mean, a lot of that will come as a result of it being a feature film, hopefully better budget. But yeah, I mean, I believe that scene as well, from what I was told by somebody, I won't reveal the source, but I believe that was the first shot was the one that they've done. They just did the one shot of Mandalorian.
One take.
Beating different troops. One take, that's it. And it's, I mean, the first time you see that, you do think, that's pretty cool. And of course, we've got all the usual sort of like the costumes in there. So you've got your AT-AT drivers wearing the AT-AT driver gear. So it feels genuinely Star Wars. Is that Hoth that takes place on?
Well,
there's rumours.
I have this thing because yesterday, obviously, an image was dropped by Mr. Levy, the director of Starfighter.
Yeah.
Of his two main cast, Ryan Gosling and the young actor whose name slips my mind. Terrible. I don't have Mark Newbold here to correct me this evening.
Come on, Newbold, where are you?
Flynn, I believe his name's Flynn. Okay. And just an image of them on location in Sardinia, Italy. They've now left Sardinia, Italy. They waited until they left location before they dropped the image because obviously they didn't want people rushing to see them live. And obviously they're filming at sea. So everyone's calling it a water planet.
Or water
So we have
world.
this thing in Star Wars where there's snow, it's a snow planet. There's sand, it's a desert planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's forest, it's a forest planet.
Blame
We
George
all
Lucas
live on
for that.
Earth, people. We've all seen multiple environments on one planet. So I don't know if it's Hoth. Everyone's assuming it's Hoth. My understanding is the general plot of the movie is that the Mandalorian's recruited by Colonel Ward, played by Sigourney Weaver, to hunt down an Imperial remnant. And it's quite possible the Imperial remnants are using the Hoth base, because it would be a nice take on the rebels in the past have used various abandoned bases.
Yeah.
Maybe the Imperial remnants are now doing that in this
That
point
would
in
be
time.
really cool. Yeah.
So it could well be, or it could be another ice planet, or it could be a planet like Earth where sometimes it snows.
I love that. I think we're so used to with Star Wars that there is just one specific type of terrain per planet. We're so used to that now. So automatically people think this is a water world. That's it. But yeah, you're right. It would be nice to see somewhere where you've got multiple types of terrain. I suppose we kind of got that with Naboo to a certain extent.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, Tatooine, as far as we know, is just one big beach, baby. So yeah, it would be nice to have somewhere that has got a little bit of everything.
Maybe they're on Naboo, and out of that water is going to jump Jar Jar and go, Meza Jaja Binks.
Lisa,
Who's a user?
who's a user in this?
If that's in the first trailer, it's going to be hard to market that film.
We're all doomed. We're all doomed. So
Um,
what else? What else did we see in that footage, Bright? There was we saw Zeb.
Saw Zeb, yep.
Yeah,
We saw Rot of the Hutt
right at the end. Yeah, and
doing
Rot of
his
the Hutt
best
looks
impression of Hulk Hogan.
pretty muscly. Yeah. And we saw R5D4. We saw some of those little. Are they called as aliens? Those little
As aliens,
Babu Frick type characters, riding along in a mouse droid. So there's some nice little nods to fandom, really.
Yes, without giving away what the story is, we're going to have a bit of action in this. We've got new characters, old favourites, a nice mix. It was a nice sizzle reel, as they like to call them. And we also saw that Pedro Pascal was physically on set, which is a rarity because he wasn't, and really for most of season 2 and 3, because he didn't need to be. Because he wasn't going to be physically represented. The fact that you're seeing Pedro on set, do you think we're going to see him physically represented? In other words, is the helmet going to come off?
Undoubtedly. It's got to, hasn't it? I mean, there's no point having him there unless they're going to actually show his face. Whether it's out of choice of the character or whether somebody removes his helmet for him. But yeah, definitely we're going to see Pedro. But for the most part, like you say, Pedro doesn't really have a lot to do with it these days. He's mainly the voice. But it's the Pedroverse out there these days. He's in everything. So he's going to have to be in this film, isn't he?
Yeah. He wasn't in Downton Abbey, which I saw last week. Did look out for him. He wasn't there.
He was not there.
There was a lot of AI and CGI in Downton Abbey. And there was an end credit scene, and they didn't even have him.
I mean, we're diversified here, but just briefly, what sort of AI and special effects were in Downton Abbey?
Dead people coming back to life.
Oh, right, okay.
Characters that were killed off, some in real life as well, were brought back for a final sort of little montage scene, shall we say.
Oh, so we get Mrs. McGonagall back then, do we?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, to get her back and
Spoilers.
Jessica Finlay Brown.
Now, look, the Star Wars audience are going to be absolutely gutted that we've done spoilers for Downton Abbey.
Oh, we have, yeah. If you checked out this programme for the Mandalorian Grogu and accidentally got spoiled for Downton Abbey, I do apologise. It's been out a week. Where's the excuse? You should have seen it by now. We'll go with that.
Send a complaint email, or better still, write it on a doily and post it to us.
We mentioned, talking of Downton Abbey, Rot in the Hat was in the sizzle reel. He wasn't in Downton Abbey, but we know he's going to be in the Mandalorian Grogu. Here's the big question.
Yeah.
We've previously seen Grogu getting punched by bike troopers. Are we going to see Rot in the Hat punch Grogu in the face? Because that would make me cheer.
Yes, I'm sure it would. Just remember, Grogu isn't a droid.
Yeah, but he's punchable.
He's punchable. Let's see. I don't think we'll see him get punched.
Not that I condone violence, but what I'm saying is inside a wrestling ring, it's okay.
That would be hilarious if that scene is actually Rota versus Grogu. I can't see that happening. But yeah, it's good to see Rota back and certainly grown.
Talking of violence, Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out effectively the same week that, or just before the film's going to come out.
As we record, that's the schedule.
And everybody that's a gamer is going to be buying that and playing 24/7 and becoming a zombie in front of their big screen TV.
Locking themselves in the rooms. Yeah.
Will the Mandalorian and Grogu be affected by that release? Because they're competing for the similar kind of audience, it would be fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, this has been debated over the last few months. I would say that it will have some impact, but perhaps not as much as people would have you think. Put it this way, if I was a massive GTA fan, I've played GTA 5, but I wouldn't class myself as a huge fan of the game. Would I, having just bought that, then go out to the cinema if I was a huge Star Wars fan? I guess I would, yeah. I mean, we've not had Star Wars at the cinemas for 6 years, 7 years by the time that comes around. 6.5 years. So, it's quite an event. So, yeah, I would put my controller down. I'd pop out for 2.5, 3 hours and then come back and crack on with my GTA when I get back in.
The
what would you
important
do?
thing to remember is if you've bought a Grogu popcorn bucket, hold on to it tightly, because if people have been watching GTA, they're inclined to whack you in the back of the head and steal it from you.
What's your thoughts? Would you be inclined to put your controller down and nip out for a bit?
If it was Elder Scrolls 6, I'd be stuck to my computer playing Elder Scrolls 6. GTA 6, not so much.
But that's Elder Scrolls 6 would be something that you would be a big fan of, so you could understand why
I can totally understand that people will not want to not be playing that game. Because let's be honest, give it another 4 or 5 weeks and you're probably going to have Mandalorian Grogu and Disney Plus.
Yeah, well, this is it, and that's what a lot of people will be banking on. Also, I mean, as much as we know people have enjoyed The Mandalorian, by the time we got to the end of season 3, I think season 3 for me was a bit of a yawn fest. I wasn't impressed with it at all. There was the odd bit here and there that was good, but for the most part, it was nowhere near the quality of seasons 1 and 2.
The second to last episode that they screened at Celebration in London
was
a
good.
phenomenal episode of The Mandalorian. Yeah. And it got you really pumped up and excited for the finale.
Which
was basically the Waltons.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah.
And it was like, good night, John Boy, and that's it. And it was just like, this is appalling. What have they done? That's not Star Wars. What you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. This whole trying to make something that isn't Star Wars drives me mad. And they really did that with the finale. There was the Doctor from Back to the Future. You expect him to have a great comedy role. Jack Black, you expect him to have a great comedy role. Lizzo, you hope she's just not going to be in it very much. All of these guest stars, it was just appalling. Each and every one of them. Just terrible roles and terribly performed. And I'm not criticising the individuals so much, apart from Lizzo. And because they can only work with what they're given.
Yeah, the storylines were awful as well.
It was terrible at times. But in that episode of Screen at Celebration showed what they can achieve and it was great. And then they just went so much backward with season 10, and you ended up so flat that there's not an excitement leading into this film, and that's what's going to make it really hard. They're going to really have to work hard to market it, which surprises me that this time out they haven't done any kind of marketing. Again, we're recording this on Thursday, so they'll probably release a trailer on Friday. But why do you think that is? Why do you think they're so quiet?
I just don't think they've got the marketing budget that they've had in the past. I think the industry is struggling still as a result of COVID. It's still struggling to get back on its feet. The last few Marvel films haven't really done much at all, have they? They've really been quite surprisingly low in terms of numbers going through the tills at the cinemas and theatres. And I think that's potentially what could happen here with Mandalorian Grogu.
There seems to be this disconnect between the Hollywood content makers and what people want to see. Prime example recently is the new K-pop Hunters, or whatever it's called, film that's on Netflix.
Yes.
Sony put $100 million into development of that.
Yeah.
Came to the conclusion that they don't know what they're doing and don't know how to market or do anything with it. So they sold it for $20 million to Netflix. I think it is that bought it. And then Netflix have developed it, and it's been phenomenal, the number one globally, making huge numbers compared to anything else. And they're now calling it $1 billion franchise because all the spin-offs and marketing they'll be able to do off the back of it.
Okay.
And that's Sony giving it up for 20 million, having spent 100 million on it, and now it's going to be worth $1 billion. That's, and K-pop's as huge as it's ever been at this point in time. That's a total disconnect. That's an example of a total disconnect from your traditional Hollywood films of knowing what people want to see. And I don't know what it is. There's something lacking in the industry direction at this moment that they can't read an audience.
Yeah, they're just not spotting where the winds are. I must admit, I thought that Sonic the Hedgehog was a bit late to the party in terms of coming out as a film, but there's now been 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, so what do I know? And I believe they've all done reasonably well. The K-pop thing's an interesting one because the youngsters that live in this house, K-pop mad, and collect the photos and all sorts of weird stuff. But I thought it perhaps had its day, so I'm guessing if I'd have been at Sony, I'd have been going, yep, let's sell this off as a as a loss and expect it to do quite poorly. So the fact that it's done very well shows, what do I know? Star Wars, do you think amongst the younger generation it's as relevant to them as it was to us when we were their age?
It's not. I think there's some that absolutely love Star Wars, and you see that. You go to conventions and you see them
and there are still young
cosplaying
people
and whatever,
there.
and some of them have grown up on the Clone Wars cartoons and so on, and that's how they got into Star Wars rather than us oldies in the original trilogy. So you can't say that there's not young people that love it, but in terms of the wider general public, so out with your hardcore Star Wars fans, it's just consumable content. It doesn't have the same cultural impact that Star Wars used to have, where my parents in their 70s could rattle off loads of Star Wars character names. Wouldn't be able to tell you a single name from the sequel trilogy because it doesn't have the same cultural impact to reach people who aren't your natural Star Wars audience.
Yeah. I mean, even now, if somebody was to say, give me a Star Wars quote, the people are going to quote from either 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
They're not going to quote from the newer films.
I'm Luke Skywalker.
Are you? Oh, hello. But yeah, no. So it's. I think as well, there's so much more choice these days as well. I mean, there's obviously the Marvel franchise, the DC universe, whatever you want to call it. So people like to be a bit different, so they'll pick something other than what they're expected to pick. So Star Wars suffers from that. But thinking again about the Mandalorian and Grogu, are there any characters perhaps from the original trilogy that you'd like to see or could plausibly
linking it to
be
just
in
the
it?
conversation we've been having about enthusing our fan base. I don't think there was a single hardcore Star Wars fan out there who did not get excited at the whole sequence of Luke coming back. It wasn't just the fact that Luke came back, it was the way that they handled it and executed it, that whole sequence, and building it up. Because in your mind, you were like, it's not. It's not. I can't do that. And it was like, oh, I can have. And, it was, that was phenomenal. And it was so well done. And it was the fact that they had every character in that scene, magnified that scene as well. Yeah. And even having R2 hate droids, but when you're just having him in there, having the sort of Grogu and he's sort of touching the screen during the whole thing, just everything about it and the way they built it was beautifully done.
It was brilliant.
If you're going to do a movie of The Mandalorian, you've got to have Luke in there because he was such an important part of what the TV series was. I don't think you can do the movie and not have him in there. And I think that the way that Mark Hamill is, when he's been doing promotions for The Long Walk, I think it's what he's promoting at the moment. He's been talking quite lovingly about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I kind of think he's been involved. And I hope he has. But Han and Leia, because based on what Mark Hamill said last week about he did The Mandalorian because he wanted to portray Luke as a fully fledged Jedi Master, because you'd kind of seen him as a sort of innocent kid, and then you see him sort of training, but you never really see him in his peak. And you sort of see him at his end in a kind of miserable, broken kind of horrible character. And what about seeing Han at his peak again? What about seeing Leia at his peak?
I think this is
your moment.
This is your moment where we can actually bring all those legacy characters back together. They've got the technology to do it now. I think my prediction is that the film will end. Everybody's in jeopardy. The Falcon sweeps in to save the day, and that's when we get to see Han, Luke, and Leia. Which
would be great, because the kind of rumor has been that Dave Filoni is going to get his film to direct, that it's going to be something of an adaptation of Heir to the Emperor of some degree. I don't think it's going to be a little adaptation. I think it's going to be more OT characters versus Thrawn. I think that's more likely it's going to be. That would be a great teeing up of them, because as well as the OT characters of Luke Hanley, I'd love to see in it. I'd love to see Thrawn in it.
I'd love to see Thrawn. I'd love to see Lando, 3PO, R2, Chewie.
Well, we don't need to go that far to include the droids. Let's be honest here, right? If you're a manufacturer of R2 units, right, you could be pissed off that the most famous people in the galaxy are kicking about with a 40-year-old R2 unit. Because, where's your repeat business? How are you going to survive as a manufacturer selling R2 units? You've got a little corner shop selling R2 units, right? Surely you're selling the latest models with updated features and updated
I think there'll
technology
be some
in it.
No, there's some sort of Adobe type thing going on here.
They've cornered a market and locked everybody else out.
You've got a monthly direct debit where you have to keep upgrading them. So,
you think that? You think that these R2 units are supplied on a subscription basis rather than an outright fee?
And then you look
that
at
would explain things.
If you've done,
because there's no other logic for having 40-year-old tech. Either that, or this is the most redundant galaxy that they've really not moved forward at all. Because imagine trying to operate a 40-year-old computer in 2025.
Well, just think though, Brian, that we don't really see another R2D2 that looks like R2D2. We haven't got the same color scheme. Every time we see another astromech, it's a different color scheme. So they only make one of each. So
it does explain a lot of the plot points, because obviously old Ben and the recording was kind of broken because there was something jammed, because they were having to use floppy disks instead of having a USB fob entry point, because they haven't upgraded the hardware. And they're saying they couldn't find Luke because they couldn't get the map of where Luke was, because the hard disks deteriorate. Could have had a solid state drive in there if they'd upgraded. So.
It was a long time ago, Brian.
And it's the same with C-3PO, right? He's like, 100 years old?
Yeah.
Right, so he knows 6 million forms of communication. Think of all the planets that have been discovered in that 100 years, and like all these extra new languages, right, that they've discovered. So you've got a droid that only knows 6 million languages. Your neighbor next door, he's got one that knows 12 million. You know what I mean? It's like, update your technology, people. There's a poor guy who bought a factory to make translator droids, and he just can't sell his stock. He's stuck there. He's going bankrupt.
But this one does 6 million and one.
Yeah, I know. Think of it. You wouldn't have. There's no Steve Jobs in the Star Wars galaxy doing like an annual big convention where he's promoting the new droid technology out there. That's what's wrong with the world.
Sadly, I have actually thought about that in the past. That our Apple every year will come out with something. Yeah, but this volume knob's like 2 millimeters wider.
Yeah,
well, good about that. Yeah,
but have we ever actually seen in any Star Wars? I can't think. Apart from the Jawas, any droid salespeople? A droid shop?
No. Maybe on Family Guy, but that's about it.
No, I think they've all gone bankrupt.
Here's
the chance, and the Mandalorian Grogu could sort this.
Yeah.
Where they could have a proper droid shop. Because we've got the droid smiths and the Azurians, or however you pronounce it. The little people.
Well,
maybe they're too good at fixing droids. That's the problem. They've driven all the new manufacturers out of business.
You've got one opportunity to buy the right colour. That's it. It's with you for life.
It's like what happens when you upgrade like your X-Wing or your Starfighter pilot ship.
Well,
my droid's the wrong colour. Or it doesn't fit the slot because it's like you buy a new car and I don't have a CD player anymore. No. And so I've got to put my music on a USB stick. Like, what happens if your droid no longer, you don't have an R2 shaped hole? These are the things that keep me up at night, Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I don't have an R2 shaped hole. That's all I'm saying.
I think if you carry on, you will.
I don't have a BB-8 shaped one either. Don't have an R2 one.
We've dwelled on the legacy characters. In the clips that we saw over in Tokyo, we saw Zeb in a flight suit.
We did.
Do you think there's a likelihood that we'll see the rest of the Ghost crew?
Dave Filoni wrote it, along with Jon Favreau. Dave Filoni likes his callbacks, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Will we see them? It would have to be a scene of consequence. I don't want to just see the walking past in the background kind of garbage type thing.
Well, going back to what I said before then about Han, Luke and Leia's swooping in the Falcon to save the day, what if the Ghost comes along as well? So the two ships and the two sets of people, two crews.
Yeah, it needs to build to something if you're going to do that, though, and that would make sense if it was the Filoni movie that we've been promised, which they've kind of gone a little bit quiet on.
Yeah. So do you think that there's potentially that this is the end of the Mandoverse? Do you think this will be the
That's
end?
A great question, because what happens if it's a success?
Yeah.
Do you make more films or do you make a season 4?
Yeah. I mean, the live action slate for TV goes very quiet after Ahsoka season 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, there really isn't anything announced post Ahsoka season 2. So, do they have intentions to make more streaming TV Star Wars? It doesn't appear like they are.
No.
Because for the length of time of development, you would expect to have had some series to have been announced to be on the slate for 2026. Because, well, for 2026, all we've got is Ahsoka. That's it.
Yeah.
8 episodes on a 52-week year. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything else because there's nothing else getting made for TV.
No.
That's live
action.
And
then we've got Starfighter at the cinema.
Yep. Which is 2027.
2027, yeah. Is Ahsoka 2026
so if you want TV for 2027, you need to be filming it this year.
Yeah. which depends greatly on the success
or the
of
first quarter of next
Grogu.
year. So you would expect it to be announced by now.
Yeah.
Now, we have historically in November had Disney Plus days, and they've called it various other things. It's normally based around the Disney Investor Conference. Could we get announcements then? Quite possibly, but things have been quiet. Dave Filoni's head of creative, but he's been stuck really making Ahsoka season 2, and he's been making The Mandalorian along with Favreau directing.
Do you think the potential success of the Maul animated series that's going to come out, if that is an absolute, just really good business for them, is there a likelihood that we'll go back to the Solo storyline where it ended with Crimson Dawn and bring Maul back to live action? Is that a chance?
As a fan, I would like to say yes, but I can't see a scenario where a boardroom would approve a budget to make a film when that continues a sequence with characters and actors from a film that completely flopped. The business logic of it doesn't make sense. The creative logic makes brilliant sense.
Yeah.
And to be fair, people have watched the Solo movie, probably enjoyed it, and probably regret not having seen it in the cinema.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, yes, I would like to see it, and I can see the logic, good steps on a creative part. From a business part, I cannot see a board of directors ever approving a budget for a movie based on how badly Solo performed.
It's a good point. It's a relevant point. It's only because I'm such a huge fan of Solo that I would love to see some continuation from it, even if Solo wasn't in it. You know, just to sort of.
I do think that
kick it on
we've got a chance if The Mandalorian Grogu succeeds as a movie, that we no longer see live action Star Wars TV shows. And Disney Plus becomes an outlet for animated Star Wars TV shows.
I agree.
Obviously we've got the Ninth Jedi Vision spin-off as well as Maul. So we actually have quite a lot of animated shows already announced in the pipeline. We could have more. We probably do have more because these things tend to be getting made quite a while in advance. And obviously we've had the Lego show drop today or tomorrow. Yeah, well, this is Thursday, so it'll be Friday tomorrow when we're recording this. I can't play the game of this is Sunday.
You know Graham Norton, are you?
No, I'm not Graham Norton. I can't pretend. It's Friday night interviews when we're recording it on a Wednesday morning. So I can see that. My worry is I don't think The Mandalorian Grogu is going to have a big enough box office because it gets an audience of 2.5 million people. To be a successful movie, you need an audience of 100 million people globally.
Yeah.
I can't see where that audience is going to come from. And I have a fear that they're going to overdo the Grogu garbage products. And it'll sicken people by the time the film's out. That they won't want to see the film. Or you're going to have the situation where they just buy the garbage Grogu product and don't bother seeing the film because, isn't Grogu cute? I want a cuddly Grogu.
Yeah.
I don't care less about your film. I think you've got that problem.
I think you're right. I think there's probably a lot of people out there that bought their small children, the 3, the 4, the 5-year-olds, cuddly Grogu. The kids have never seen the film, the Mandalorian. The adults have never seen The Mandalorian. They just bought them something that was cheap Star Wars stuffed toy. Here you go. You talk about sort of 1.5, 2 million viewers for The Mandalorian TV show. I suppose this is the acid test as to whether The Mandalorian and Grogu as characters have permeated popular culture and actually do garner a bigger audience than that.
That's a great point because in the Disney era, out of all the new characters created in the Disney era of ownership of the Star Wars brand, the Mandalorian and Grogu probably have transitioned more to popular culture more than anyone
I think so.
else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they benefit from obviously Grogu is basically Yoda, and the Mandalorian's basically Boba Fett, which is a shame for Boba Fett because by the time his TV series came around, they'd already done all the good stuff they wanted to with what was could have potentially have been his character, and that's why we were given a couple of glorious episodes purely based on the Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett's season, and that was where we got to see even more content of Luke, and that you could argue was that was more
The Mandalorian double
skillfully
bill we got for
yeah
the
that was
Book of Boba Fett.
more skillfully handled with the Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian 2.5 than when we saw him at the end of season 2. Technology had moved on, but we saw Luke meditating. Going back to what you were saying before, we saw Luke as a skilled and confident Jedi Knight, and we saw some great lightsaber skills. Him training Grogu, which was a flip of Yoda teaching Luke. So that was nicely done. So I'm confident that we'll see Luke again. I hope we see Han and Leia, maybe even Lando. Forget the droids because I'm going to upset you. And I'm hoping we see some, if not all, of the Ghost crew as well.
Can I
Where
throw
do you
one
go
final
on?
question at you then?
Yeah, go on. Then.
When we're talking about who we'd like to see and what we might like to see,
Yeah.
could he somehow return? And I say
Well,
this for my beloved democratically elected Chancellor of the Galaxy, the one and only Emperor Sheev Palpatine. And I say this
what a man.
because part of Grogu's backstory has been this whole thing that very much wanted by the Imperial remnants, and we know that's the central sort of gist of the story is
Yeah.
Mandalorian against the Imperial remnants. Been seeking Grogu to do clone testing on. So could
Yeah.
we see Exegol? Could we see a failed, perhaps, clone of Palpatine somehow? Could we see Snoke? Could we get all these kind of things come into the mix somehow?
I think there's possibilities of all of that. I would actually like to see Snoke because it would actually maybe make some sense of what happens in the sequel trilogy by having introduced Snoke at an earlier stage. The
Maybe
Emperor,
Grogu, being the nasty kind of Jedi that he is the one that hurts Snoke's face.
oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. But seeing the Emperor again, I'd happily see Ian McDiarmid reprise that role. I was surprised that we didn't get a bit of it in Andor, but I think that was more a Tony Gilroy decision. Um, but yeah, I think they've already established in the Mandalorian TV series that Moff Gideon had got clones of himself, so we could potentially see fight scenes where we've got multiple Moff Gideons. Who knows what they've done with Palpatine? There could be numerous Palpatines knocking about, but we could even see something as radical as maybe Anakin Skywalker. In which case, there's potential that we could have Anakin fighting alongside Luke. Now, wouldn't that be cool?
That would blow people's minds, that's for sure.
That would blow their minds.
I
But
personally would
that,
like to go to a cloning factory and just see like 1,000,000 Palpatines. That would make my day.
I mean, think about this though. What if we had a million Mark Newbolds?
Oh, well,
That
we
doesn't
want
bear
people to
thinking
see this
about.
film.
Oh dear. So what else would we like to see in there? Is there any developmental stuff you'd like to see
I
there from
do,
the store?
not necessarily Palpatine, not essentially Exegol, but I do want to see development of the cloning story with Grogu. I want to
Yeah,
understand more about Grogu's legacy, where he's come from, why he was getting protected by Jar Jar Binks,
yeah.
or whatever his Jedi character's called. I never watched the game show, I don't remember. Um, the I want to understand what happened to him, who protected him, who did he grow up with, where's he been, why is his force techniques not particularly well developed,
Yeah.
who did Yoda do the dirty with to create him, these kind of things are the questions I want answered.
Yeah. I going back to what you've sort of mentioned, and I'd not considered was Snoke. So we could see the development of the First Order, and we could see not only Snoke, but maybe some sort of transitional phase between the traditional look of the stormtroopers and what they become in the First Order. So we might get a new stormtrooper that bridges that gap.
Very possible.
Um, so that would be quite cool. Um, it's got lots of potential to excite people like us, but whether it actually gets
Yeah, whether it
bigger
crosses over to the
audience,
mainstream, that's I think its
yeah,
real challenge.
yeah. And I think if they don't use legacy characters, they're missing a trick because people will they shell out money to go and see
Yeah,
Han, Luke, and Leia.
you need it needs that moment of sheer excitement to fill people's
Yeah.
bodies. I think
Well,
to make
another
it.
reason to another reason to do it, Brian, as well, will be obviously we will be the eve of the 50th anniversary. It'll be the 49th anniversary when this releases. So if ever you're going to have the opportunity to really get people excited for the following year for the 50th anniversary, this is the one.
Well,
So
if you bring Han, Luke, and Leia back as younger versions of themselves, and I'm not necessarily saying go the CGI route like they did,
no, no, no.
potentially recast them. If you
Yeah,
bring them back in this film and it succeeds,
yeah,
then you've got a whole world of storytelling between The Mandalorian and Episode 7,
yeah,
where Han, Luke, and Leia in their prime
yeah,
would really encapture a huge part of the fan base that have grown up with those characters. You could
yeah,
make a TV show, you could make a series of movies, and I think it would be very popular.
yeah.
Because I think we've reached a point where people would be comfortable with them being recast now.
Yes, yeah. I think in
In
order to
some ways, the failure of the way they handled those characters in the sequels has probably
yeah,
made it easier for them to recast those
yeah,
characters. So, if anything, you want to,
yeah.
I'm not a fan of the sequels, you can tell. But if you want to praise the sequels for anything, it's probably changed people's mindsets as to whether they would accept them being recast or not. Because before the sequels, I always said, no, never. What a
Mm,
terrible thing to even conceive of.
yeah. I personally, I think what they will do is they will try to keep the likenesses of Hamill, Ford, and Fisher. I really do because I think it'll be like a defining moment, and that will be the last we ever see of Han, Luke, and Leia looking like they did. In terms of recasting, no problem for that, but I think they'd save that for TV. Or, as you were hinting at before, Disney Plus potentially becomes the home of Star Wars animation. I would love to see the legacy characters in some form of animation, whatever style they choose, whether it looks anything like the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch, or whether they go for something a bit quirkier from the Pixar sort of canon, then I'd be up for that. And I think what they should do is give Han, Luke, Leia, potentially Lando, one last sort of thrill ride right at the end of The Mandalorian and Grogu, so people can say, right, ultimately, we saw absolute tragic and garbage incarnations of Han, Luke, and Leia in the sequel trilogy. We've waited till now, and we've now finally seen the end of Han, Luke, and Leia as we're going to see them as Ford, Fisher, and Hamill. But what a great way for them to bow out. And that's what I think they ought to do. Whether they'll do it, I don't know. Because I think the main problem with trying to sort of keep Carrie and Mark and Harrison as how they looked back at the end of Return of the Jedi. This is set probably about 6 years after Jedi, I think.
Yeah.
They could effectively look pretty much the same as they did at the end of that film. The problem with that, though, is I would imagine it's very expensive to do it properly. But also, should you? You know, I mean, Carrie's been gone quite some time now. So, you know, there's the ethical side to it. And again, I think the biggest problem with recasting is always the first time. Once you've recast and people have accepted it, a bit like James Bond, a bit like Doctor Who, once you've done it once, you've done it. So you can recast again.
So
and again,
in theory,
and again.
we've actually already recast Han, Luke, and Leia.
We have. Yeah. Yeah. We certainly we recast Han properly because we had Alden Ehrenreich. Luke has been
Fudged.
He's been fudged, but he's been Mark Hamill's been heavily involved in the younger version of Luke, albeit then digitally altered. And Carrie appeared at the end of Rogue One through
and Obi-Wan as well was a young.
and in Obi-Wan, yeah, but as a young as a young child, and as a young Luke as well. So there shouldn't be any issues with recasting, but for the Grogu and Mando film, I would love to see some quality interpretations of how they actually looked as we remember them from the mid-80s. So that'd be great.
I think on that note, we should call it an evening. Before they recast us.
Shall we do that one? Let's do that 1 week.
We'll be back in 1 week's time, recloned and new beautiful bodies, following Star Fury Invasion. And on that note, it's a good night from me.
And it is indeed a good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at FanthaTracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow FanthaTracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.